generosity of the Cambodians that we were interacting with when we were like showing up at Vung Tau Harbor with our ship and saying, "Please help us. You know, we're in serious trouble." And they said, "You're Americans, most of you, and you are an international event. And we know you're on Huntley Brinkley at night and Walter Cronkite and all that. And we want to help. And on the other hand, we're walking this tightrope, and we don't want any kind of provocation that anybody could use in your government to say, so the Cambodians are not neutral, so they've actually, you know, joined the enemy, so let's bomb Cambodia," because that's so much what Nixon and Kissinger wanted. And so they said, "Tell you what, we're not really going to just let you sink here. So what we'll do is we will fix the ship and we'll reprovision it, but we won't stamp your passports. And if anybody asks if you were here, we'll say no." So, oh, that's fun. We can live with that. In fact, we can live. So that's what they did. And so we got to hang out on an island just off the coast of what was then called Sihanoukville, and hang out until we were ready to go. It was an extraordinary experience to watch people so, so surrounded and yet maintaining this beauty and friendliness and peace. Okay. So then I came home because our series of voyages were over, and we did other work, a lot of anti-Vietnam War work and anti-racist work, and just a lot of work in the coming years. What got me crying sometimes nights was watching that, for all his wizardry, Sihanouk couldn't keep Cambodia out of the war. The U.S. did invade, did suck Cambodia in, and set the stage for the rise of the Khmer Rouge. And how they did that was by destroying so much of the social infrastructure of Cambodia, killing so many adults, so many orphans, young street gangs, no provision. Living by their wits and whatever it means. Young, especially young men, look, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And then this madman, Pol Pot, comes along and says, "I have the answer." And he has this terrible ideology and recruits them. And they were available for recruiting because of the desperation of the country and their own personal desperation. And they said, "Well, we'll sign up." Sounds extreme, but these are extreme times. And so Pol Pot was able to build an army basically of 10-year-olds and 14-year-olds and 16-year-olds, and there were of course stresses in Cambodian society internally that made that possible as well. But as an American, and I'm one of those deeply patriotic Americans of my generation, who really wants us to be shining a light. It was just, and then having been there to watch my country do this to this people and set up a situation where millions of people would be killed. And I felt very powerless and very, very sad. Well, in the beginning of the 90s, Thai friends from Thailand, Buddhists, a Buddhist network, started inviting me to do training in Thailand. And they said, "There's a chance next time you come that we can invite some Cambodians to come over here to Thailand for a multinational training. Would you be interested in that?" And I thought, I get to be with Cambodians again, even though I'm embarrassed and ashamed in some ways, in other ways, at least there's contact. There's a possibility maybe I can make a contribution because these Thais think maybe I can. And I said, "Well, you're a good trainer, so let's see. Well, I can see if they come." And so in 1993, I returned. It was the training itself was in Thailand that first time, but there was a good group of Cambodians there who were smart and feisty, and I thought, how can you go through the trauma that you've gone through and be so present? And I want to share just one product from that training that we still use sometimes in handouts and training for change. because it's a dramatic list. It also illustrates the style of training we do, both domestically and when we're crossing cultural lines, which is never to tell people what to do, but always to ask them, what might you be able to do in these situations, and to enable people to share their knowledge and share their wisdom. And the question that elicited this list, well, it was really something. The question was, how do you reduce government violence when you're in a nonviolent campaign or you're in a struggle? The government is taking one side, you're taking the other side, and the government is tempted to call out the army or the police to deal with you. How do you reduce the level of violence so that your campaign can survive? And the Cambodians had a lot of experience with that by then, against the successor government of the Khmer Rouge. And also the Thais had experience. And also there were a bunch of Burmese there who had been through their 1988 student-led heroic insurgency, nonviolent insurgency against the dictatorship there. So all three groups got rocking and rolling about, oh, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. All growing out of their experience. So we made this big list. We made the list in Burmese language, in Thai language, in Khmer language, and in English so that I knew what was going on. And then this is the list I just thought you might be interested in. Who knows, you might be up against some opposition someday. I don't know. Okay, this is wisdom from those three countries. Train for nonviolent action ahead of time, including training your heart, access your compassion. Make those in power believe we don't want to destroy them as a class. It's not that we're trying to destroy them. We're trying to get them off their attitude and behavior that oppresses us. Enlighten them was one of the words. Appeal to common values. For example, Buddhism, if that's in common with which in those countries it was. Patriotism, another one. Get allies ahead of time if possible. Don't allow yourself to be politically isolated. Send a delegation to government. Tell them what you're doing. Don't allow yourselves to be faceless, but establish relationship. Between campaigns, reach out to government. You know, they knew about social networking. Reach out to government people. Let them get to know you. Invite them to events and so on. Create links. Get to know their children. Do all of that. Soften them up. Network with the media. Win them as allies if at all possible. Design your action and take into account the agents of violence, because it's not that everybody's besieging you. There's often, the paratroopers are particularly difficult or particularly trained police that are going to be really smashing you. So particularly know who those are and reach out to them and appeal to their beliefs that contradict the job that they're going to be assigned. And then if there's a dangerous area, that's a great time to get a very low-key kind of peace march going with a lot of people, so that the potential allies in that area, whether it's a village, kind of rural area, or whether it's a city, all get to see you being unthreatening, although firm. And that is more likely to trigger their support for you than when the stuff comes down. Anticipate violence. In other words, don't be surprised. Don't go into these situations thinking, well, we're nonviolent and that's a magic wand, and we'll wave the wand and everybody will be nice to us. Anticipate violence. Assume there will be casualties. Anticipate that. And be flexible in the way you respond in the moment, like decentralizing actions to reduce the danger at particular moments. When a barricade stops you, send scouts to find other ways around. Control your own demonstration and stop agent provocateur. The great old French phrase for the people who are told by the government or your opponent, if you're against an opponent who's not a government, who pay people or tell them to pretend to be one of you, and then they act out. They start throwing the rocks or whatever,